Alright, hello. Don't do movesets very often, I don't think at least, but whenever I do a moveset video, I usually like to do it on something that I think is really underrated. It doesn't have to be like something that I think is really good or something that I think is really funny usually I try to make something that I think is good and really underrated and not used as much as it really should be. So I'm actually doing this one on Zweilous, and I've never seen in my life, I've never battled against a Zweilous in my life, in PU, FU, or NU ever. And I think it's really good in NU, because I didn't think it at first, but I thought I'd try it out. I just needed it to cover some I just needed it for type coverage, and it actually worked really nicely. So I've got two kind of sets I want to go over. The first one is going to be a specially defensive variant, so it's going to be a wall of sorts. That's how our EVs are going to go. Careful. So max HP, max special defense. You can put the last four in HP. You can take a little bit out to take out the stealth rock even number. That's not really a huge deal. It's not really going to make much of a difference either way. For something that's not weak to stealth rocks, anything that is weak to stealth rocks, you do want to do that, but for this it's not really a huge deal. But he violates the item, of course. Hustle is the only ability, so it's what we're going with, and it's kind of a curse, but it's kind of good at the same time. As a wall, accuracy isn't too much of a big deal because you can take several hits and you can heal your health back anyway. I'll put the moves in and then I'll explain the set later. So we've got Dragondale, Crunch, Rest, Sleep Talk. So those are the moves. Then I'm going to go over kind of its typing. So Dark Dragon is actually really good type, and it has the curse of being 4 times weak to Fairy, but the thing is, this is an NU set, and NU is pretty much devoid of pretty much all Fairy types. Not only that, but it's also pretty much devoid of Steel types, other than there's Steelix and there's Klinklang, and I think those are really the only two ones, but they're both physical attackers, so you don't really want to be staying on them anyway. Downsides for this typing, I will go over first. It is weak to fighting, and NU, there's a lot of really strong fighting types in the tier. There's Sock, there's Throw, Hariyama, and Primeape are the ones that come to mind just off the top of my head. I'm probably missing some, but those are the ones I want to talk about. Also weak to Bug, and I think this is one of the only tiers. I think NU and below are the tiers that you actually have to take bug typing seriously. A lot of other tiers, and just I think whenever people make a team, they kind of disregard bug as a typing, and they don't think it's going to be an issue because there's not very many strong bug types, and you usually have steel types on your team to counter out that either way. A lot of people ignore bug typing as a threat. Even a lot of the strong bug types like a Mega Pinsir don't usually run bug stab anyway. But in NU, where all the bad Pokemon are kind of thrown, all the bug types are kind of this is where all the bug types end up, and they're kind of on par with everything else that's in here. So there's a lot of strong bug types. There's Vivillon, there's a Selgor. There's a lot of really strong bug types. Granted, actually Vivillon is kind of uncommon for them to carry bug stab. They usually carry like Hurricane and Giga Drain, from what I've seen. But either way, a lot of strong bug types that you will want to be afraid of in the NU tier. One last really not very nice weakness to have is an ice weakness. Ice is really good coverage move. Anything that has access to an ice move will usually try to run it, just because it's such a good coverage move. But those out of the way, I'll next go over the fantastic resist that it has with this set. It resists fire. It resists the fire, water, grass kind of trio which goes on, and that's really good to have in NU because a lot of fire spam in NU, a lot of bulky water types in NU, and a lot of grass types in NU. Like a lot of grass types. Just a lot of grass types. So very nice to have those three as resists. Electric resist, very nice, really good thing to have. A lot of electric types as well. It's not like as prevalent as the other three resists that I said, but it's very nice to have an electric resist. Um, Also has a ghost resist. Ghost types are actually really good this gen. So to have a Pokemon that resists it, that isn't a normal type, because normal types aren't that good defensively. Um, they're not bad defensively, but like if you're looking for specific resists, is what I'm saying. As things like Audino, things like Miltank are good for other reasons, but if you're looking for straight type coverage, normal isn't the best. So this it gives you a ghost resist, and I think that's pretty nice to have in any tier really, just because ghost got really good this gen. Um, Moving on, I'll go to the moves and why they're good. Dragon and Dark Stab are really nice to have in this tier. Pretty much in almost any tier, because they're both really good stab moves, but more so in NU, because going back to what I said before, there's very few viable fairy types in the tier, as well as steel types. I already mentioned the only steel types that are going to be a threat. But fairy types, you've got like what, like Deden, which is garbage. Wigglytuff, which is a thing, I guess. Not not really too bad. Like I feel Wigglytuff you can kind of play around. They usually run as a wall, but the Assault Vest variant with competitive is also pretty fairly common. So I guess that's also. But you can usually play around Wigglytuff. And like what else? Mr. Mime, I guess. So I'm pretty sure those are like the only three fairy types I can think of. There might be more, but I can't really think of any. But uh, those are the only things that are going to be wanting to take a Dragon Tail. Everything else is going to be getting hit pretty hard. Crunch. Not only is there a lack of fairy types, but there's also an excess of psychic types because a lot of the psychic types that there's a lot of psychic types in the higher tiers, and a lot of them dropped because knockoff became, you know, really good, I guess. So a lot of psychic types in NU. So Crunch is really nice to have. Also going back to ghosts, it deals with ghosts, but the big thing is there's a lot of psychic types, and this deals very nicely with them. You will have to watch out for psychic types carrying Dazzling Gleam. A few of them do that, but other than that, it hits pretty hard. Rest, Sleep Talk, your only form of recovery, and it is very nice to have. A lot of people see the rest, and because, I don't know, they just see the rest, they assume it's a free setup opportunity, and then you bring in the Sleep Talk and hit them really hard. Also, Zweilous has a pretty good base attack stat for a not fully evolved Pokemon, and not only that, but boosted with Hustle. Both of these moves hit very hard. Dragon Tail, anything that wants to switch in on you, if anything tries to bring in your, dedicated Zweilous counter for NU, just anything that comes in, if you can get the Dragon Tail off of them, you're just getting free damage and switching them out. Anything that comes in, you slam them with the Dragon Tail, deal a good chunk of damage with that base attack stat and Hustle, and they take Stealth Rocks damage, and it switches them out to something else. So I would not recommend ever running anything other than Dragon Tail. Certainly not Outrage if you're a wall. Dragon Tail hits really hard. It's a very nice move. The problem is with Hustle and that 90 accuracy, you will have to accept the fact that you're going to miss a lot of them. Like I think it's like 72% accurate, which is less accurate than Focus Blast. But as a wall, accuracy is a bit less of an issue. Obviously, it is an issue. I'm not gonna pretend it's not, but like if you miss Dragon Tail and your opponent gets a Swords Dance up and gets in kill range, yeah, that's a pretty big deal. But like a lot of times, if you miss one Dragon Tail, you can go for the second or just switch because you went for Dragon Tail on their switch. Crunch, same thing. Hustle, base 85 attack stat. It's going to hit really hard, and you're even uninvested. I think this is a really good set. I think it's a really underrated set. You will have to accept the fact that you're going to miss a lot, but I think other than that, I think it's a really good set. Moving on from that, the item, you can stick with a Violite or you can use a Choice Band. I would probably stick with a Violite if I were you, because I don't know, it's really good. Like these defenses, when you with these defenses within a Violate, you're more bulky than Hydreigon, which is the evolved form, and not just more bulky, but significantly more bulky. And I don't know, it's really good. So I would recommend the Violite even if you're using this offensive set, which I'm going to go over. Dragon Tail, we will now switch out for Outrage. We'll keep Crunch, and we can use Superpower and Ice Fang. All very good moves, and the best thing is most of these are 100% accurate, and they're still very powerful. Outrage, 120 base power, 100% accurate, with Hustle, with Choice Band. Not a Violate choice. There we go. With Choice Band, with Hustle, with base 85 attack, this is going to hit very hard, as is Superpower. Hits pretty much anything that you can't hit with your stabs, except, I guess, Fairy types, but I already went over why I don't really feel Fairy types are an issue. I think I'm missing some EVs here. Yeah. And then Ice Fang hits a lot of things that resist your stabs as well. I guess I'm trying to think if there's any like 4 times weak things in NU, because there's a lot of things in general that are just 4 times weak to ice. I don't know. Going back to what I said, ice is just a really good coverage move. If you want to run something else, you can, but I think Ice Fang's really nice. All these moves are really, really powerful, and I think Zweilous is a very underrated Pokemon and a very, very good Pokemon. I would never run this set in particular because I hate Hydreigon. I really hate Hydreigon. I don't do anything with Hydreigon but freaking miss Draco Meteor. So I would not want to use an offensive set because I know I would just miss all my moves. But going back to actually Hydreigon, I've hit more Dragon Tails with this freaking thing than I have Draco Meteors, which is kind of sad. But I wouldn't ever use the offensive set because I have really crappy luck. But it is still a very good offensive set, and I would highly recommend it to anyone who wants to give it a try. You can change Ice Fang for anything if you wanted. I don't think there's very much that's better though. But yeah, give it a try. It's a very good set and very, very underrated.